pickleball becomes an important part of their life. And with that is an added value that helps with dealing with things that as an escape from things that might be tough to just relax, to chat with people, to have normalcy.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Pickle Me This. Be sure to subscribe, comment, and like so you'll be notified when new episodes drop every Saturday morning. You definitely don't want to miss them. Also, your support helps other pickleball enthusiasts find us too. Everyone has a story. Welcome, everyone, to another episode. I'm your host, Deirdre, and today we're exploring the fascinating intersection of recreation and mental health with Dr. Jonathan Casper, an associate professor at NC State. He has worked at the University of Northern Colorado long before most of us had even heard of pickleball. As a former tennis player and coach, he's dedicated significant research to understanding how this increasingly popular sport contributes to psychological well-being across different populations. So with that, welcome, John. Or do you want me to call you Dr. Casper? What do you prefer?
You can call me John.
Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome, John.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, and it's great to be following the first of your episodes of your podcast. I think it's great so far.
Oh, good. We like hearing some feedback. So I think a good place to start is let's just talk about your how you got into pickleball, how you started playing before we dive into the research.
Sounds good. Well, I was a tennis player for sure in my past, very highly competitive as a junior. Ended up playing it at a small college in California called Pitzer College. Eventually, through life circumstances, ended up being a country club professional, tennis professional for many years. Then went into coaching, but my favorite job ever still to this day was being a high school tennis coach. And then got a job as the head men's tennis coach at the University of Northern Colorado, which is about 45 miles north of Denver, Colorado. And from there was coaching, and all at the same time ended up getting a master's and a PhD. But what was interesting about my role there is to make some extra money. We had the ability to teach some of the activity classes that they offered. And being in the racket sport realm, some of the ones that they offered me to teach was one called pickleball. And I was like, wow, like I've never heard of this sport. This was back in 2001. So well before when pickleball became what it is now. It was definitely more of a gym sport. It was kind of like badminton and some of those others. And that's like exactly what we did is we took the badminton nets and put them down to ground level, and had some lines that were taped out in the gym. I kind of learned, this is early Googling, I guess, in the same, but I kind of learned the rules as I went and was able to watch some people that played it a little bit more seriously. But that was my introduction, was almost actually having to teach it.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
I loved it. Like I really was like, wow, this is really a fun sport. But I didn't view it as this activity that it's turned into now.
Yeah.
And so I never played after that. I ended up coming to NC State and have been teaching here now for 19 years. I was playing racquetball. I was playing paddle tennis, which some people call beach tennis, and we basically were playing on tennis courts. And I had some friends that told me, hey, they just renovated courts. And so on a Sunday, he said, let's go play some pickleball. And I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't played in forever. And with that, we went there, and they had 6 beautifully resurfaced pickleball courts there at the time. And this was back in 2013, 2014, I believe.
Still a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah, still a while ago. And that's for me, that's when I started playing decently regularly. And it wasn't one where I became obsessed right away with the sport or anything. But if offered the opportunity and the time to play, it was definitely something I wanted to do.
The rules always been the same.
The rules have always been the same. Yeah. So it's, and it's interesting. whenever I teach people pickleball, the rules are the hardest part to
Oh,
the
yeah.
sport in some ways. But yeah, it's always been the same. But we had the wooden pickleball paddles at the time.
I think the first game I played was with a wooden paddle. You reminded
Yeah,
me.
oh my
I don't even know where I got it from, and then I was
they
like, "This is not gonna work."
they still have some at Method Road for the indoor play, and boy, it is they have the paddles have come a long way. The paddles
Uh-huh.
have definitely come a long way.
Yeah. Actually, a friend of mine just texted me last night. We're big hockey fans, and she bought Hurricanes were selling Hurricanes
I saw
branded.
that they did a cross promotion. Yeah,
So
mhm.
she's like, she knows I play. She's like, "Dear, I bought a paddle, but I really don't want it. It was like a silly thing." She's like, and I'm like, I don't play with that. I'm sorry."
Yep, our standards have been raised.
It's really funny.
Along
Um,
with the cost of entry if you really want a high quality paddle there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so funny. You played with people for so many years, right? Pickleball. Can you share like a transformation story of somebody you know who resisted pickleball at first, but then became passionate about it?
When I look at who I've played with and some of the experiences I've had with pickleball, I think the thing that stands out to me most is some of the people that were going through some type of difficult life situation, whether it was kind of the transition from working to to retirement or through other things like a divorce or something. And pickleball really became something that not only did they play but was a way for them to work through some of the things that are tough just in life. And what I have seen is how pickleball becomes an important part of their life. And with that is an added value that helps with dealing with things that as an escape, as a way to get away from things that might be tough that are going on with them. And I see that with me as well. Like I naturally, I mean, just life itself is tough. But over the past year or so, I've had some things that have been tough with family health issues, and to me, pickleball becomes a really important way for me to just relax, to chat with people, to have normalcy in a different way that helps to not be thinking or dealing with other things like that. I feel like pickleball and pickleball is not alone. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of different activities
Right.
that are important, and I'll talk to why I think pickleball is really a good one, especially recreationally. But it is a way to escape, relax, find yourself in a different way.
Yeah. It's true. I feel like a lot of people at the courts, I tend to play in the evenings, and a bunch of us will talk about, oh, work was so like blah,
Mhm.
blah, blah today. So it is like you walk out there and it's like it's a stress reliever and you just want to forget about the rest of the
Yeah.
day.
I mean, there's nothing like being in the moment of a close game or something, and you're not thinking about anything else
Hmm.
except for getting that ball to your opponent's backhand or doing something like that, and that's all that matters at that time. So I think
Totally.
there's something to having that moment of zen.
Before we jump into the psychology stuff, what's your own personal memorable moment from
Oh
pickleball?
boy. I mean, if I think of funny ones, I think of back like during COVID, some of the bathrooms were closed at some of the pickleball facilities
Mm,
and like having to strategize like, "Oh my gosh, like I want to go play, but there's no bathrooms around and like how am I going to find that way?" I mean, I think those are funny. I also had one where I was playing with a partner who admittedly just sweats a lot. Like he'll always be sweating and we collided, like literally collided. I was wearing a
oh.
gray shirt, and you could see his imprint on me, like literally the imprint of him, as we smushed together in a moment of trying to desperately get the ball.
That's pretty funny. Any like embarrassing stories or like a pet peeve you have while playing?
Oh boy, I don't know. I'd say probably my biggest peeve is definitely people that take recreational pickleball too seriously. Like that is probably the number one pet peeve. I mean, if I'm playing with people that aren't that good, I usually will play left-handed if or do something that's fun rather than like demonstrate their superiority over these new beginners as far as that goes. But might even talk a little bit about kind of the transition from where pickleball was to where it is now to where it might be going. But I think that's definitely something that's changing a little bit that I've noticed on the pickleball courts is that it's the open friendly beginner friendly recreational play is a little bit different than I think it used to be.
Yeah, talk about that now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, so I think we see within recreational play, there was back in, like, for example, 2014, 2015, when I was starting to play, it was everybody's welcome who are at these courts. Let me take the time to show you how to play,
Mhm.
even though, the scoring is the hardest part there. To where now people will, and I get it. I play with some players that are better, and we want to play together, and so that's an important part, is to be able to have that time and to be able to play those games together.
Mhm.
What I've seen, and I think too, is because the level of play has gotten better. Like, there's
Yeah.
just more intermediate to advanced players, that the room for the beginner isn't there as much as it used to be. But there are pathways. I mean, what we're starting to see, and this is good, especially in public park and recreation, is we're starting to see, and they're always sold out. Like, every time there's an intro to pickleball class offered, for
Mhm.
example, it's full. Like, I mean, so we're starting to see that. But what's happening is that rather than learning organically through friends and meeting people on the courts, you're having to go through some of the more formalized ways of learning, which is through a pickleball professional, and it's good, but it also goes away a little bit from what I think maybe us old farts in pickleball would say is like what made it special in the first place. With the trends toward the private clubs and just more courts being available, my hope is that maybe it will go back to that once the demand for the courts and stuff has somewhat been met. You go to some of these courts, and you're waiting 20 or 30 minutes to play a game, and you're an advanced player, you probably don't want to wait 20 minutes, play with a beginner, and then have to wait another 20 minutes before you have a chance to
Right.
play with someone else. So it's frustrating.
I've been playing 3 years, and I've actually noticed that evolution in just that short time span
Mhm.
too, because when I first started playing, there were meetup groups
Mhm.
also for beginners that people were out there, and a lot of people would definitely take the time more to introduce people.
Right.
It's funny, we were just talking about this at the courts the other night because it was packed, and she said her and her boyfriend, they're totally cool playing with newbies, but they
Mhm.
call it, like, paying their taxes. I thought this was a funny
There
analogy.
you
They
go.
pay
Yeah.
their taxes. They play
Yeah.
like a game or 2 with some newbies, but then they wanna move on and play some good games with some, some of their friends. So they're like, they're still folding in. So they're not being exclusive, but they're also trying to get what fun they like out of playing too. So
Right.
I
Yeah,
thought
I
that
get
was
it.
pretty interesting.
I get it. I understand it, and I think that's a really good way of thinking about it for an intermediate advances. You kind of got, you're paying your taxes, or kind of
And
paying
we
it
all went
forward.
through it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, we
Like,
all, yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
yeah, like that's how I started playing. I just showed up at the courts.
yeah,
And people like were welcoming and very cool with letting me play, and I was terrible in the beginning.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I
I've
remember playing with some of the more advanced players, and I thought I was good, tennis background, all that stuff, and you know, they they showed me what pickleball is really like
yes.
eventually after that. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Jump into the psychology aspect. At what
Yeah.
point did you begin to notice potential mental health benefits that warranted
Sure.
that study, the academic study side of it?
Yeah, so I've been doing academic study in pickleball for a while, and it was the social components that first initially got to be a real interest of mine.
Mhm.
Back in 2016, 2017 was kind of the first study that I did. And I've kind of approached pickleball, at least from a research perspective, in different waves. And the first wave was like, why do people play? Like, I noticed that back in 2016, 2017, like, a lot of people think that COVID was how pickleball
Yeah.
exploded. Not the case. No, it was exploding way before COVID happened. So the popularity of pickleball was already there. So what I wanted to research was like, why are people doing it, right? And so what I found was very similar to other sports. So enjoyment is always there, right? It's fun, right? That's
It is
that's a
fun.
big part of what happens in that. But there were other things that were important as well, and social connections was the second most important motive for people. And so, hey, okay, I can see why this might be important. Pickleball is inherently social. So my in my initial research, I found that the reason that people initially play, especially if you're a beginner, is for the enjoyment, for the social connections and also for the physical activity. Like, and then what I found is that those that had played for a while, in this case, at least a year or more, they had different motives. They're playing pickleball for different reasons. And so these were mastery. So getting better, like that was a really important thing for people that had been playing for a while, is they wanted to get better.
Yep.
And competition became a really important part of it. And I think that's a underappreciated thing about pickleball, is that especially for older adults, I consider myself now an older adult now that I'm in my 50s, but the opportunities for competition as well as physical activity that are actually less. Like, it's great if you're a
Actually
adolescent
true.
child, you have every opportunity for all these sports. But as we age, the chance for competition, especially sport type of competitions, is reduced. And so the appreciation for having the ability to play, and that, I mean, even if you think about it, it's not so much wins and losses, but it's like that challenge. Like, here it is, it's game points, that pressure that's on you to get your serve in or to make that great return or something to close out that point. Like, that's an important reason why we like the sport. And I found that that's why people that are committed to the sport view competition as an important part. So there's the social aspects that I'll get to in a little bit, but some of the fitness things were important as well. And so that led me to the next study that I did, which was like, how much physical activity do people even get playing recreational pickleball? And
Yeah.
so, like,
So,
because
John, can I ask a question first?
yeah,
So, like, what was your aha moment to actually officially study this?
the aha was playing it and seeing how I was making friends through a sport
Okay.
that, unlike other sports that I played, and I play other racket sports like racquetball and tennis and stuff like that, but there was something different to it. And the big thing is how you can see people go from zero to, I mean, from never playing to playing very quickly competitively, and recognize that's a real unique aspect of the sport, is
Right.
that you can get people up and running very quickly. But
Yeah.
the aha was like, here's this moment where there's these social connections that are being made, and they're not just on the court, and
Yeah.
that's a key thing.
I feel like there's like an addictive aspect to it too. Like you just want to keep going.
There is. I think
Yeah.
so. I mean, and it, you realize, and with your friends and all that stuff that you make, like, there's that want to connect more and to do more. And so I think that's really important.
Yep.
So,
So go ahead with your second
so anyways,
study.
okay, so then I was like, okay, well, do we even get that much physical activity? I know I do, but when I was doing some of my research and looking at some of the populations that can benefit most, I was studying mostly older adult and senior populations. And so what I did was we put Fitbits on seniors 65 and over that were playing pickleball in indoor rec centers, so that we could control for the environment. And it was amazing. Like, we found their sessions were long, but they were getting like 4,000 steps per session, which is pretty cool.
That's pretty
They
cool.
were getting 60 minutes of what we call moderate to vigorous physical activity, which is where our heart rate is raised a little bit.
Mhm.
They were burning over 500 calories every time they played in a session.
Wow.
The CDC has this recommendation for older adults to get a certain amount of physical activity. And what we found in that study was that if you played pickleball 3 times a week, you were meeting those guidelines. Like, just by playing pickleball
Just 3
three
days a
times a
week.
week, you met those physical activity guidelines. And it was very different because we were looking at their physical activity on days that they didn't play. And pickleball was a real driver for them. If they didn't play pickleball, in most cases, they weren't getting that same amount of physical activities. But what we did do is continue that research, and found and started to dive more into the social aspects of it. Like, what is it? We know it's inherently unique, but what is it that is important? And so what we started to look at is does the sport create new social connections? If you look at how people mostly got into the sport, it's from friends. So that's the key thing. So uh, friends introducing people to their sport, but is there new social connections that are made? And then, most importantly, and this is where I'm still going with some of my research, is what is the quality of those social connections? And this is where I think your podcast is going to tease this out a little bit. Not that I can use it for research, but is that like most of the social connection research will say that it's better to have good friends than it is to have a lot of friends. So
I
the
agree with that.
number isn't as important as quality. And so it does pickleball more than other sports or similar to other sports make a case for that. And so that's what we're starting to study now. Right now, most of the research has found that we have more friends. We see, for example, that they create their own pickleball group chats, for example,
Yes.
on that. And just that activity alone is outside of pickleball, because a lot of times what's happening is not just, hey, let's go meet at this park or do this, that thing, but also sharing funny memes or things that are outside the sport itself. And so I think that's a real important part about the sport, is that due to the ease of entry, it's affordable. It's played. I'm a huge advocate for it being played in public parks and recreation. How is this actually improving people's health and overall quality and well-being? And
Yeah.
one of the interesting things about the study, when we did get shut down by COVID, we did follow up with the participants that were doing that study where they had Fitbits on, and we found that while across the board, everybody was losing social connections because of COVID, the ones that were continuing to play pickleball were the ones that had showed significantly higher life satisfaction. So those that continued to play versus those that didn't were happier with their life during the time of COVID.
Yeah, our courts definitely use group me for group chats. And more in the beginning when I first started playing, a lot of the people were, and it was mostly led by what the guy who ran the meetup for beginners. He created a group me, added everybody in, and there was a lot of chatter in there in the beginning about just like, is it rain? Are the courts dry? Like, who's going today? Who wants to play? I'm going. A lot of organization. But then we started creating like social channels too.
There you go. Yeah.
So, like, who wants to go to the brewery for board game night? Who wants to go here? So, we started having all of those separate chats too. What's kind of sad now is that a lot of people have, and I'm part of like separate group chats now. Like, people have, instead of one big one in the beginning, we've kind of all gone out in like separate group chats. And I don't know if that's bad or good, but the main group me is pretty quiet now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But it took that for those separate individual ones to
That's
happen.
true. Like it
So
started, right? It was the
it evolved.
catalyst for all of
It
it.
evolved.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
What's the one thing about pickleball and mental health that you wish more people understood?
Well, I think it's important that pickleball can be used as a health intervention. I mean, a lot of times, especially in this world, like medication is always the first option when it
Yeah.
comes to feeling sad, feeling depressed, whatever it is. And like loneliness, for example, you still might have friends, but you can still feel lonely. I think it's really important for us to think of a sport like pickleball as a way to help like with these serious life things that happen. I like to go for runs and things like that. But you know what? If I had a choice between going for a run and playing pickleball, I'm going to choose
That's
pickleball
true.
1,000 times out of 1,000 times. So if we look at knowing that there's the physical activity benefits, knowing that there's the social benefits that come from it, like why not? Why isn't this part of a physician's tool
Mhm.
when people have these major life transitions or reporting feelings of depression, things like that? What we don't have right now is, hey, here's your prescription, go play pickleball. It's probably one of the most important mental health and physical health tools that we have today is a sport like pickleball.
So you talked about running versus pickleball. What do you think is inherently the difference between they're both a good form of exercise?
Mhm.
What do you think is the main difference between the two?
I think is the fact that the inherently social part of pickleball with the competition that's
That makes
part of
sense.
that makes that somewhat unique. And even if you're an introvert, you still can play pickleball. It's, you think, okay, well, maybe you have to be an extrovert to play pickleball because you're going to meet all these people and do all that stuff. But I think there, there's a way for anybody to be able to play. The one thing that we found whenever we do research on sport and exercise, especially getting people that need to get exercise, is that they don't view it as fun. Like that's always the thing. Like, that's no fun. And so to have an option where it's fun, I think is a key thing, and
Oh,
that's
that's
well
cool.
documented by a lot of researchers.
Yeah. I think there's like sometimes there's just a hurdle sometimes is like you started segueing into is an introvert is sometimes
Mhm.
hard to just show up. Like,
Mhm.
how do I just show up and play? And then, oh my gosh, I have to talk to these people.
Yep.
So you kind of do. I mean, you don't have to talk to them. You have to
Yeah.
partner up with people sometimes and just have like a little bit of a conversation. And while you're waiting, then it might just be awkward to be just
Yeah.
standing there. So,
Yeah. Most people that know me would say I'm an extrovert, but I would say I'm not, only because I don't like being in situations with tons of people. That's just not me. Like, I don't feel comfortable. I'm not very good at small talk at all. So I don't like that. So for me, even to go to a pickleball court is can be somewhat intimidating. Like, making the effort to get there is the hardest thing. And then if I don't know people or have anybody that I like really have seen before, it can be pretty intimidating to be in that
mhm.
atmosphere. If you can make it through that barrier, be patient.
Yes.
There's lots of people on the course that are like that.
That's so true. I just actually interviewed my own daughter this week. She'll
Mhm.
be on the podcast episode that launches tomorrow.
Okay.
And she was so funny when I first brought her because she's an introvert. And I remember her looking at me when our names were called and it was time
Mhm.
to pull the paddles out. And then we had to play with two other people. She'd always look at me and she'd like stare at me and she'd be like, do not make me play with anybody else.
No, I refuse.
She's
Yeah.
like, no. And then she talks about in the podcast too. She just says sometimes when she did play with other people, and she actually ended up liking it. So that's why
Mhm.
she was like surprised, right? But she said in the beginning when people would start playing with her, and she's like, people start giving me helpful advice, and then I have more pressure on me to like do better,
Mhm.
and then I'm like overthinking, and I think that's a big part of it too.
Yeah.
So, but you just got to get past that hurdle, not worry about it. I
Mhm.
think a lot of us are very self-conscious, including myself, and still to this day, I don't want to let my partner down,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
That is
So,
part of it. Yep.
yeah. So, but a lot of times people don't care. People start apologizing to me on the court. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a beautiful day. I don't care. I'm out on the pickleball court. I don't care.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Don't worry about it.
yeah, don't worry about it. So, I think you started mentioning this earlier. So, let's talk about this more the accessibility of pickleball for people being affordable, available in public areas. Like, how does that affect who participates in it?
Yeah. That's a great question. So one thing we know is it is about as affordable as it gets for any sport. I mean, the fact that it's offered in public park and recreation,
Yes.
the fact that to be able to even get to play competitively, you really don't need lessons. You can learn from other people, is a big part of it. I take some faculty or graduate students to go to play. Within an hour, they're playing competitively. It's funny, like some of the research, some of the things that people say are constraint is the name. They're like, seems so weird, and people have to see the game and what it is
Yeah.
to understand what it is. Because if you were just to tell people pickleball, they're like, "What is that?"
I
Like,
never
that
thought
makes
about that, but yeah.
no sense. So I view pickleball as a way to go beyond just where it is now. And like, if we think about where some of the pickleball courts are now, sometimes they're not that accessible to some of the other populations that really could benefit from the sport. How it really doesn't cost any. You can go to a public park and recreation. So there were some interesting things that I didn't think about, where I think, oh, it's just so easy, everybody can play, and
Mhm.
sometimes that's not always the case.
Yeah, you do need a paddle to start. I feel like a lot of people at the courts have extra
Yeah.
paddles, but a lot of people don't know that.
Hmm.
And then they don't like how do you actually go up and ask somebody
Right.
for a
Yeah.
paddle? Like
Yeah.
that,
Exactly.
you're like, I'm
It's
not gonna do that.
it's already intimidating enough.
Have you observed differences in Psychological benefits between casual and competitive players. You kind of started talking about that. As people progress, sometimes you see this in rec play, then they'll start entering tournaments and they'll be really investing in coaching and trying to get better and better.
And this is not different than any other sport in many ways, but as people play more, they start watching YouTube videos of
Yes.
how to play pickleball better. Um, Start watching some of the pickleball tournaments and things like that. Um, Start buying more of the pickleball merchandise, like investing in a better paddle, things like that. What you start seeing is that they start incorporating pickleball more as part of their life, rather than just a exercise or leisure option that they could do. So as people become more invested and view pickleball, for example, it's not just I play pickleball, right? I'm a pickleball player. I'm putting myself in the sport, like I'm part of that sport. And so that identity is really important for commitment, and continued play that we've seen, and that's a big difference. So we haven't isolated exactly when that happens, but usually that's around, you have to have played a year, like a year of
All
pickleball
right. Yeah.
before you really make that leap into like pickleball fandom.
Yeah. Do you have a story about someone who came to pickleball during a difficult time in their life?
One of my
Okay.
now friends is someone that I met. I actually met him at church, of all places. He and his wife, and he had played tennis before and was fairly competent when it came to contacts and all that stuff. But I told him, and this is me being, Mr. Pickleball. Yeah, I love playing pickleball, all this stuff, and how I was telling him I was doing research. Eventually, we went out and we played, and he was like, "Wow, this is kind of interesting. It's fun." Next thing I know, he's wanting to play more. We actually became really, really good friends because we play singles, which barely anybody plays
Oh,
anymore, but we
yeah.
played singles, and that is a workout in itself.
Oh, yeah.
We became closer friends from that. He started buying more paddles, getting, all the shoes, all those things like that. But pickleball became a really important thing for him. I know, just like everybody, we're all going through some terrible things. He had some health problems initially, and then being introduced into pickleball, he um, was kind of making it through those health problems. And boy, I mean, he became like such an advocate for pickleball, and it became so important to his life. It was really kind of cool. And what was cool for me was it gave me a chance to have a friend on a different level. And we both really kind of evolved in pickleball together. I didn't play like that much recreational pickleball just because of time commitments, but I would make sure that we had time to play together, and we still do. And
Oh,
so
love it.
having that expectation, and knowing that we'll have 2 or 3 times per week where we're going to be able to hang out and do things together is really important. But it was funny because he went from being pretty what is this sport? Nah, that's okay. To now, it's very much a big part of who he is in his life.
It's funny how that happens. I've seen
Yeah.
that happen with other people too.
Mhm. Yeah.
Can you tell us about a memorable intergenerational pairing or group you witnessed and how they influenced each other?
This is a sport where moms and kids can play together,
Mhm.
grandparents can play with kids. And what struck me the most was at Method Road. This was like on Tuesday nights when NC State college
Yes.
students would play. And it was so amazing because it was like, there was no separation between being these young college students and older adults, all just on a warm summer night, hanging out, talking, doing things that usually don't happen with college students because they're in their
Mhm.
own college world. They've got classes, they've got other things that they're concerned about. But then to join this other world, in many ways, I was like, wow, like that is really something that just doesn't happen. And
I agree
I've
with
seen
you.
other things, like when I see like grandparents playing with their kids, like I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the best.
With your own family, you see it, which is great.
Yeah.
But I actually think what's even better, okay, maybe it's the same, but it's cooler is young people, and I say young like 20s, teenagers hanging out, playing with, and chatting with like people in their 60s, 70s. Like
It's amazing.
it's amazing. And it's not a big thing. It's
Yeah.
like just normal everydayness. Now, when they probably first came, each side, like they probably didn't realize that they were going to come in and that would happen to them. Like
Hmm.
I've seen some really young folks at our courts come in to play, and they're definitely keep to themselves. And then usually it's the older people that start talking to them
Right.
first, right?
Infiltrate their
Infiltrate
group
their
a little bit.
space.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so they'll start talking to them. But then the next thing you know, young people are seeking them out too to say
They do.
hello. It's
Yeah.
like a really cool dynamic to watch unfold. I love
Yeah,
it.
I was trying to do a project where the college students and our pickleball club at NC State really wanted to do this, but partner with some of the senior centers. We called it Pickle Pals, and would play pickleball, but also do other activities like storytelling and some of that stuff that went along with that. I still have that as a one thing I really want to do,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's gold. The Retirement Research Foundation, they cite intergenerational connections as one of the real key things to kind of this loneliness epidemic that's
Mhm.
happening so much. The one limitation with pickleball is you have to be physically healthy to play. Like, if you have balance issues and things like that, that's hard. And so I found that a little bit with the senior population is you got to be very careful. But boy, I mean, to see people that are playing, multi-generational difference, not just one
That's what
generation.
I mean. I think it's
Is
that's the
amazing.
bigger thing
Yeah.
for me. Yeah.
Mhm.
Is
Yeah.
to see it. And it's cool when you see each side seek the other out and
Mhm.
connect. It's kind of
Yeah.
heartwarming. So as
Yeah.
someone with extensive experience in tennis, let's talk about tennis versus pickleball a little bit.
Sure. That's controversial.
Uh it is controversial. Um how would you compare the two communities from a psychological perspective?
Boy, I mean, and this is an interesting one because still to this day, I'm a huge tennis fan. But what I have noticed is the communities are different, and we're talking recreational. It's very different. There is no open play when it comes
Correct.
to tennis, and they've tried some programs that are similar to that. I know the United States Tennis Association, specifically the North Carolina Tennis Association here, has seen how that might be an opportunity for them to have some type of casual
Ah.
open play, that's part of it. And I think that would be great if the more they can do, the better.
Mhm.
The more how that they can see how pickleball is done it right, I think is important for them and important for both industries moving forward. I would say, and we mentioned this, but the fact that there's this intergenerational play that's just so much easier, the social connections and that including the downtime between finishing
Yes.
a match and waiting for the next one, that encourages a little bit more socialization. Since I started studying pickleball back in 2016, the demand for courts has just been overwhelming, especially
Oh,
within park and
overwhelming.
over with park and recreation.
A few final questions as we wrap up. As pickleball continues to grow in popularity, how do you see its role in community mental health evolving?
Again, it's thinking of it as a prescription in some ways. And this is not new. I'm not new to this whole thing about sports or physical activity being a prescription. But that's what it needs to be. Like, it can make your life better. Like,
Yeah.
that's an important thing, is that if times are tough, think of pickleball as something that might make it a little bit better. And in one day you can start feeling better because that's how quick it is to learn.
What future research, I should say, about pickleball and mental health are you most excited to explore?
I'm most excited for looking at two things. First of all, exploring the social connections better. Like, even though I know there's more, I still don't know the quality.
Mm.
Are these social connections different? And this is important for me, is to look at other sports and compare, because I'm saying here's pickleball and here's the social connections that are made, but is it the same in other sports? What are the unique things that come from pickleball, especially when it comes to the social aspects? The other thing is, I'm inspired by some of the people that use pickleball, as a way of advocacy and mental health and belonging in different ways. I don't know if you're familiar with Gizmo Pickleball. If you aren't, you need to Google Gizmo. He's
No.
unique and different and awesome. But he focuses a lot with at-risk youth and using pickleball as a way for increasing community and understanding, especially with youth. He also does some stuff with agriculture and farming, I think, which is
Mm.
really, really interesting as well. So Gizmo is awesome.
Oh, I should
And
go
then
look it up.
there's Roger Belair, who's in California, is taking pickleball to prisons, and
I just saw something like about
there's going to
that.
be a documentary about it. Yeah, and in some of the research with black participants, I thought, well, why can't we take pickleball to these churches after services? Put on the parking lot, play some pickleball, do some things like that. So I kind of want to take pickleball to the people, I guess, if that makes any sense. And
Complete sense.
rather than it just being in the park and rec realm or in the private industry, take it to the people.
I like it. No, that's great, right? Versus
Yeah.
having people have to go seek it out themselves. All
Yeah.
right, 2 final questions.
Okay.
What's your go-to story when someone asks you why they should try pickleball for their well-being?
Why not? That's
Oh,
my
I like
go-to
that.
story. Yeah. Because, there's a lot of different things that you could do for your mental health and well-being, but why not pickleball? So I think my go-to story would be give it a try. See if you like it or not.
Could you leave us with your most meaningful personal moment that really encapsulates why you dedicated so much of your career to this sport?
It's the feeling that I get when or after I played where I go like, life is good. Like life is good. And there's going through lots of hard things in my life or whatever it is, like to have that like moment of calm and going, I love it. This is what life's about, and to appreciate that.
Yeah. There's many nights I'll get in the car after I leave and I'm like, "Oh, that was so fun."
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
best. It's the best.
Yep.
Well, thank you for joining us. It was really fun to have you on.
See ya.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next time when a new episode drops each Saturday. If you like this episode, be sure to leave us a like, and we'll see you out on the courts. Bye.